Sit down. Sit down. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. So if that illustrates how well we do training and management in the Department of the Army, no wonder why we're all screwed up out here in the field, huh? Thanks for telling our inside secrets, huh? How's everybody? It's good to see you all here. It's good to see you all smile. It's good to see you have a good time. It's great to see you have a spouse program. It's great to see you have your kiddies out there having fun. That's what this stuff is all about. So good on you. Good on you. Well, thanks for letting me come down, although American Airlines, thunderstorms, Reagan Airport, Hartfield, gave me a hell of a time to get here. So what should have been a simple hour and 15-minute trip ended up being about a 10-hour trip. So, but here we are. All right, but first and foremost, the reason why we are here is because you're important to us. And as I tell your tag all the time, there is no state that epitomizes the total Army more than the state of Georgia. I mean that. And so again, having had the pleasure of serving with many of you, having had the pleasure of commanding guys like Simmons over there, that was a pretty good talk he gave, huh? I think his wife's better, though. So I think the highlight of coming down, I already know Susan, but the highlight of coming down here and getting the chat outside with the ladies was phenomenal. But first and foremost, thanks for your service, what you do for our Army, for our nation, and of course for your state. So keep it up. And so the intent here is going to try to be to give you a little story about where our Army is, and I apologize, some of you, how many of you folks were down in Little Rock back in January? So to the few of you or so that were there, the very beginning will be very similar, but the intent is to show you what your Army is doing. And then we're going to get very focused on Georgia on my mind. Okay, and then we're going to talk about anything else you want to talk about, because the Army, as I'm going to tell you here momentarily, is very, very, very busy. You know, and we are doggedly determined to try and help get that tempo down, but it is tough. It is tough. But until we can do that, we're not going to be able to fix many of the things that we got going, because the real issue here is how do we get ready for the potential of something on that peninsula or something in Eastern Europe. Okay, and that's what's got to keep your focus day in and day out. Okay. All right. Next, please. Next, please. This shouldn't be anything new to you. Readiness remains the number one priority in the Army. It's going to be that way as long as General Milley's got a little bit over a year to go. Dr. Esper may have up to about 3 years to go, and we're very blessed with who's been on board here since around the turn of the year, a great secretary, a great undersecretary. So over these past 7 years, we've had actings and all kind of craziness. And when the secretariat is kind of tumbly, that means the Army is kind of tumbly. So the good news is we're very steady there. But nothing should be new up top in terms of that we do need to maintain the counterterrorism business. But by the way, we've got to be able to do full spectrum, now called decisive action. And that is a combination of, again, combined arms maneuver, wide area security, but you got to be able to fight all over the place. And you got to be able to fight in highly contested, intense fights. And that means, again, classic stuff that you grew up with when you were, most of you in here, most of you guys I see bald heads and gray hair, so I think most of you are somewhat around my generation here, right? Like right there. But movement to contact and screening and deliberate defenses and all those kinds of things, that's the Army that we're talking about, and the capabilities we have to be able to fight when you've got cyber issues, space issues, anti-access aerial denial, long-range fires, all that kind of stuff. And that's what that whole, I'm not going to be reading slides to you, I'm just going to be showing you slides, okay? But that's what the top part of that chart shows you. And again, the integration, the total Army and SOF and everything else. And then down below is what the priorities are. You know, manning continues to be a problem for all of us. And thank God retention is going very well in the Army, because that's the problem with recruiting is tough. And again, that's a challenge. Again, that's a guard challenge, reserve challenge, and active challenge. So the good news is retention is so good in the active component right now that the actual recruiting mission just dropped 4,000 because people are actually staying. And when you think about that, when I get ready to show you what the Army's doing, it kind of makes you drop your jaw and say, with everything we got going on here, people are still raising their hand and serving. It's incredible. It's incredible. But we'll keep working to work the non-deployable issue, and I say to all of you in this room, the number one, there's two challenges here to readiness, and that is manning, and that's time. We got the money, we got the facilities, we got what we need, but it just takes time to build decisive action core competencies. And so what you got to do is, how do you fill formations? And again, it's how do you make sure that those people in those formations can actually get on the plane, train, ship, and go where they got to go. And whatever that takes, you got to work that ruthlessly, and you got to make sure you manage that very well, because the bottom line math for the Army right now, if you're a non-readiness enhancement account unit, you're manned at about 95%. The Army average for non-deployables is still hovering around 10%, 11%. And of course, the average churn in a normal unit is about 3 to 5% a month because of retirements, PCS, schools, leave, whatever. So 95 minus 10 is 85, minus about 5 is 80. And there's no brigade commander, that would include the 48th, that wants to get on a plane at 80% strength. That's not what COCOM commanders are expecting you to show up with, nor are they expecting Army Service Component. Are the Army Service Component commands expecting you to come at that kind of rate? And then what's the math when you survive contact? When's a unit combat ineffective? What percentage? 65. So the delta between 80 and 65 when you're getting artillery and getting all other kind of stuff going on, that doesn't take too long. So that's our challenge. So please focus on that. Training, the key here is, I know we just have, how many folks got to go to JRTC? What'd you think? Are you better? Did you learn? How many rotations have you had? How many times have you been there? 1, 2? Okay. So are you better, do you get better as you go the second time than the first time? Okay, so that's what I'm talking about in terms of time. So CTCs, don't forget, are about not so much you going with the patch on your left shoulder, it's about how many times you've gone through as captain, lieutenant, sergeant, whatever, in different roles at a battalion level, brigade level, division level, platoon, squad, company level, battery, troop. We want to have that iterative process so that becomes part of your DNA, and you're very well prepared as an individual, soldier, leader, officer, non-commissioned officer, warrant officer. And of course, collectively as a unit, the Great 48th can do its thing here in January when you deploy again. Okay? And the key there is home station. It's what you do here at home, both before you go and when you get back. So you guys have got 6+ months before you go, give or take. I guess about 6. I guess it's June now, right? So about 6 months. So the key is, what do you do now to sustain and refine everything you did while you were in the box? And I know that guy will be watching you since he spent the whole 30 days down there with you. It's what you do now as you get ready to go out the door. Okay? All very key. But you've got the resources for that. And again, it's up to these guys to make sure if you don't think you have the resources to get you out the door any given time, someone tells us. In conjunction with EDREs right now, 2nd Brigade, 10th Mountain is doing a CDRE from Fort Drum via the Port of Philadelphia into Port Arthur, Texas. It's not going without hiccup. But once again, how do we make sure we can deploy and go places and get there just like we do when we rotate to Europe, we rotate to Korea, and elsewhere? Okay, in equipping, the key is, again, it's all the same kit. It all gets modernized. It's all the same. And again, everything, again, the Army is earnestly committed. I tell you this sincerely. We continue to do dumb things. You all know the things that we all did at ARI. We've outlived that. But the issue isn't Apache Battalion in the Guard should look like an Apache Battalion in the active component. So 18s in one, 24s in the other. That just begs the question, isn't it Apache Battalion an Apache Battalion? I think so. Isn't a platoon a platoon? So that's so, and we'll get there. The problem with those damn things is they're expensive. It takes time off the production line, and that day will come. But how you care for your kit, how you make sure you have accountability, it's all things 10-20, not FMC safety, not Circle X's. It's how do you make sure all your kit's doing the right stuff. That's what that bullet talks about. And I heard Randall just talk about it. Leader development's taken a backseat for quite a while too, while we've been doing counterterrorism stuff, because people tended to, when you were an R4 jet and you were going through and deploying on a year-to-year basis or year every other year, whatever it sorted out for you, people tended to take a knee on that, not focus on that. But the key is who's growing the bench. Most of you in here are your senior leadership. So who's growing the bench to make sure that what's coming up behind you looks like you. And that takes time, that takes commitment, that takes thinking that out, just like you'd think out a live fire or a gunnery or a road march, etc. Okay, next. All right. What should have come up, and I'm sorry it didn't come up, the other issue is what are we preparing for? And that is the 4+1. So I would just tell you, make sure, as I referred earlier to the peninsula and Russia, Europe, Eastern Europe, don't forget there's places like Iran, there's places like China, and if you're watching Secretary Mattis' stuff coming out of Singapore yesterday, and we just had the head of the Chinese Army in the Pentagon on Wednesday. What are you trying to achieve? Where are you going as you build islands? You put radars on there, you put missiles on there. What are you doing in the South China Sea to achieve what? When you talk about things like the peninsula, relationships with North Korea, what's happening between Taiwan and what's happening again in those seas, because again, what's the Navy's mission in the South Pacific? Freedom of navigation. So Navy ships are going to keep chugging through there because that's their mission. Not so much a big deal for the Army, but it's a big deal for the Navy. So what does that all mean to us? And of course, the whole CT thread that, again, is going to be threading our lives here for many years to come based on which part of the world you're talking about. But as you know, that's quite a cancer. So back to this, here's how our Army has changed. Thank God, NDAA got us back to 476, 343, 199, and now you see the 483.5, 1909.5, 3435. Okay, and the reserves, by the way, probably aren't going to make that, and the reserves are probably going to be a little bit of a bill payer here pretty soon because they can't achieve those numbers. So they're probably going to come south. Okay, but that's good news for us. Again, you see where we are right now at a 1.0265, and again, what's the great phenomenon up there, which people have to realize across the globe is, again, this is pre-9/11 conditions. The fact that the reserve component between Compo 2 and Compo 3 are 54% of the Army, and the active component is 46. So what does that math tell you? Correct. We're not going to do anything without you. So that's a statement of fact. So the key is, again, how we work everything and make it work is key. So you see a little bit of a game changer over there. The NDS kind of took us off the DPG we used to be working on, which was a defeat one place to tear some other place. This is a compete. That's also in the gray zone. That's in places where you don't know. Good to see you, sir.
How you doing?
Good. How you been?
See you.
You've been a stranger.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you do. You do. A different way of doing things, but not necessarily defeating somebody and deterring somebody. So a little nuanced. The question becomes, how much do you believe that? And again, your Army remains committed to making sure that we can do two things at once. That's what you have to aspire for. Maybe dream. But if you don't have, dream can't come true if you don't have one, right? So how we structure, how we train, how we plan for the future, we'll keep striving to do that. But the bottom line, that's what we're told to do, which is a lesser step down. And of course, at the same time, all things homeland, which you're very familiar with as well, is that's a constant. Okay. And over there is again the problems we have. Now we'll see what this new deployable force employment means. Dynamic force employment, DFE. That means you can take. That means essentially what we're trying to do right now is tell combatant commands that they don't. I'm going to show you the globe here in a minute. That they don't own anything. That means just because I gave you just because I gave you the 48th and CENTCOM, doesn't mean if something happens in the peninsula, I can't take the 48th out of CENTCOM and bring it to PACOM. Without going through all kind of boards and bureaus and people arguing over what's more important. It's a simple matter of fact. We're at war, or a greater threat is posed, and therefore I'm going to move somebody out of Europe. I'm going to move somebody out of CENTCOM. I'm going to move somebody out of wherever. And they're going to go because that's what the requirements are. And that's what DFE means. And a contact force, if you're not tracking, is the force that's physically there. A blunt force is a force that you can bring on top of that relatively quickly. Think about the GERF, to come on top of something to reinforce. And then the surge force is what I'm talking about. Surge force means you can take anything, anywhere, because you need to, and pile on to make sure you win. That's the force required to make sure that it comes on top of you. The other two, make sure you can hold your ground, make some gains, but the surge force comes on top to achieve victory. Those are the three layers of forces. So if you're not, back to what Randall's talking to you about, if you're not doing your reading and doing your studying, you kind of need to know, again, you got to kind of think strategically. Most of you in this room at where you are, what's the National Command Authority telling you, and what does that document tell you? And the bottom line over on the right is the Army, on all back to normal global force management, which that process still does happen, even though this DFE is on top of it. The Army still is about 50% of all known demand. Known demand are all, and I'm going to show you the known demand requirements here in a second. And then the emergent demand, we're about 60, 70, depending on more or less 70 most days. That's stuff that you didn't know that was coming, and you got to send it somewhere, and you didn't know about it. And the Army takes that punch in the gut fairly routinely. And we'll keep working. We'll keep seeing how OCO evolves. We'll keep working the 12304 Bravo. 12304 Bravo keeps going up, just like I'm going to show you here on the next slide. Go ahead, please. So there's the world. remember that we only talk in terms of 3 things. You're either assigned to somebody, which means you're in white up there. You're allocated to somebody, which means you're in gold up there, yellow, gold, whatever that color is. And the infantry blue is the service retained. And that shows you around the globe where everybody is. The red box tells you what named operations we're in support of. Over there in the dark blue box on the right-hand side, midway, this is an unclassified slide, but it kind of tells you bogged well. But remember, since 2005, we've been trying to get to what? In the active component, 1 to 2. We still ain't there. Of course, you all went from a 1 to a 5 to a 1 to 4 because we can't keep you on the shelf so long. So the world has changed here quite a bit in the last couple of years, but back to my comment a little while ago, the demand, the requirements, and the reason why we have to do things like that are huge. And of course, the game changer here is down here. Spartan Shield, Kandahar. Spartan Shield, Kandahar. Big news story. Big news story. So that's all current, and again, without that happening, our divisions right now, are on a 1-to-1 rotation, as you can see, based on where they all are. Okay, so a huge story for us at the division level, and of course, the game changer that's about to occur here is the 155th going to Kuwait, and of course, you guys going to CENTCOM. Well, you're both going to CENTCOM. So that's a huge game changer for us, and that's what the Army needs right now if we're going to continue to try to recover our readiness requirements to meet the NDS requirements to be able to go and do what war plans call for in Europe or Korea. Okay, next please. By the way, that little lower right-hand box that was green, that is the current readiness enhanced accounts. Those are the brigades that are on the books for the active component that get plussed up. So the goal of RIA, based on added additional end strength, which is there's 10,000 soldiers allocated for that this past year. That means those brigades are going to get manned to 105% to help give them some wiggle room to deal with their non-deployables and challenges to get out the door. Okay, next please. And then this is just indicative of, does not capture necessarily everything, but this is the enabler slide, and this is just trying to show you. BCTs are always easy to talk about for math purposes, illustrative purposes, but these are CABs, sustainment brigades, etc. So that gives you a feel for all that. And right down there in the bottom in the middle is really the key thing that you all got to pay. I've watched that number. That mobilization number continues to tick and tick and tick, and it ain't going down, it's going up. So it's amazing, again, when you look at it from a 2-3 perspective, how much stuff is out there in a MOB status. Okay, next please. And of course, there's this place called Homeland. All right, you just every once in a while when we have a season like we had last year with Marias and Harveys and Irmas, it gets people's attention. But as you all know, that border beat continues, wildfires continues, all the things that happen, all these crazy support packages. That's the different type of capabilities at which I know you are more intimately involved than I am in the lower right-hand column. But again, there's that whole Suburni enterprise and that limey green down there, which, from a PTDO full-time, that sucks up our units for a couple-year commitment, and you can't touch them. Now, we did touch them. They did get touched for all things, that are still, again, as you see, still remnant Maria stuff. They did get touched last fall. That's where most of the assets came for everything that happened down in Texas and elsewhere. So that's a huge enterprise that people just don't kind of talk about, and it is a multi-compo, as you can tell by column. There's a couple pure compo 1s. There's a compo 1-2. There's a compo 1-2-3. So it's quite the package. And what we have done, as you'll see, there is that's an EOD group. That's the 71st EOD group all the way on the right-hand side. But because of the demand on BCTs, we could no longer afford to have a BCT dedicated to do the quick reaction, rapid reaction force for the DSURF C2CRE Suburni enterprise, so we had to tap an EOD group to do that. So we're trying to find innovative ways to make sure that brigades, again, can be focused on fighting and not that kind of stuff. Not that this isn't important. Somebody's got to do it. That's why they're doing it. So different ways of thinking, trying to figure out how we move along. Okay, next. That just shows you the totality of what domestic support operations happened last year. The totality of that, when you take a look back at it and go, and again, I I pray this summer, fall, we don't have a repeat of last year. But with how things started last weekend, it wasn't very promising. But we'll see how it goes. But that's a lot of stuff going on that a lot of people are getting after. Okay, next. All right, and that's what I was talking about earlier. That is the demand. That tells you if you followed all the requirements of what each of the COCOMs asked for, that is the totality of what the requirements are. And down there in that little lower left-hand box shows you right now, just from a war plan, gift map requirement, what we don't have right now. And there are many other examples well below that level. That's just showing you some of the big bumper sticker type organizations, okay? All right, and next. And this is war plans. It's unclassified, and the reason why it's psychedelic, because that would be telling you if somebody was C1, C2, C3, or C4. It accounts for, right now, the 31. We've got 30 permanently on the books with 425 up in Alaska, which is what that arrow points to on that column in the middle on the lower bottom. That's keeping 425 on retainers. And over on the guard side, the bottom black bar there, that's the 72nd in Tejas. So that's 27. So right now the inventory is 31 plus 27 is 58. Assuming those two brigades stay on the books based on how the structure goes, okay, we got a little bit of wiggle room, but if that black bar was to go away, then we're back to 30, 26, and right there just shows you over there in that column about what the war plan contingency numbers call for. 30 plus 26 is what? This is Georgia, I know. So the New Yorker will answer it. Okay, 30 plus 26 is 56. Okay, that's a 19, 18, 14, 5 war plan roll-up. So what's that tell you? If back to what I told you earlier about having to be at a couple places at once, what's that mean? There's absolutely no bench. There's absolutely no bench. So combat regeneration, what do roles like SFABs, we'll talk about that here in the end. What do SFABs secondarily provide? SFABs secondarily provide a base plate of a brigade structure to have troopers show up and become a BCT. That's why those kinds of things are important. And of course, you play your 1st Battalion here, the 54th in Columbus, is part of that. Okay? All right, next. So for all of you, I ask you to keep this in mind as obviously you're focused. You've got a very CENTCOM focus right now, but there are lots of exercises going on out there. There's lots of things going on when you look at OIR, OFS, you look at the Sinai, you look at Spartan Shields, you look at Noble Eagle, you look at all that stuff over there, New Normal, Horn of Africa, Atlantic Resolve, Pacific Pathways, African Horizons. I would just tell you, as I think you all very well know, one size doesn't fit all. It's a constant conversation in the building. It's a constant conversation on the Hill. Depending on where you're going there, different things happen to you. So you may leave home pretty well trained, and you may go over to one of those things and start losing readiness, which is the case both in OIR and OFS right now because of force management levels, right? FMLs, which we said were going to go away but haven't gone away. So when parts of units deploy, that means units aren't whole. And then when you're doing missions in Iraq and Afghanistan, you're not doing decisive action, full spectrum operations. So your warfighting capability, integrated fires, obstacle belts, et cetera, air-ground integration, that all kind of slips away. But as you go over towards the right, those are fully integrated with the brigade on Korea, the brigade in Europe. Now the 3rd Brigade, 4th ID went to Europe last year, came home worse than when it went to Europe. So we called process foul as an Army. We had a contract. We said, this is how many live fires they're going to do. This is how much they're going to road march, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, they didn't do it. So I just got done visiting. So I visited them last winter. Was back over in Europe a month ago and went and visited 2nd Brigade, 1st ID. So the good news is the brigade that came in behind them, heel to toe, is better than when they got there. And their tracks, tanks are not all broken. So you learn what this RAF stuff is all about, but RAF is really a bogus term nowadays. It's basically what operations are you supporting and to what effect are you trying to achieve from a deterrence, assurance, adversary, ally perspective. Okay, next. But you got to be part of that conversation, okay? All right, and very quickly, because I want to get to your questions, this is just how the Army runs. That vision came out. I hope you saw it. Actually, it came out in a Secretary of the Army sends last night to all leaders. The vision got signed about 2 months ago. That was very long overdue. It had not been done since 2015. The strategy is getting ready to get kicked off here probably for the Army birthday. So that's about a 6-page document. That'll be out very soon. That allows me to get the planning guidance out, which will come close order here probably midsummer. Tells the resource people what to do. And then the Army campaign plan over on the right-hand side, which I run, runs all the lines of effort about how we run the Army with decision points on how we're going to, everything from acquisition, modernization, SFABs. You pick the topic. It's all conversion of medical treatment facilities to Defense Health Agency, all kinds of wild and fun things that we do. So be glad you're here in Georgia. Okay, next. And for all of you, if you're not tracking training strategy, and I just ask you to it's obviously written in an ends, ways, means approach. I'd ask you to focus on the ways. So again, your schoolhouses, our schoolhouses, your seat allocations are up, by the way. Mississippi was just complaining to the secretary a couple of weeks ago about not having the seats. We did the forensics on it. Your numbers are off the charts. The problem is you like the active component, are having some problems in some specialty. It's about 6 MOSs that we have a back. So it's not the totality of the school system. It's about 6 MOSs. And that again, and the only way that's going to heal is how? I gave you the answer a couple times. Time. It's just got to get throughput. And it's how the schoolhouses get more cadre, run more, Fort Rucker, if you're not tracking right now, runs 3 8-hour shifts. Imagine that. 3 8-hour shifts around the clock to get pilots trained. That's unheard of. So that's what the institutional enterprise is trying to do to help us out, okay? I've talked to you about home stations. You know first and forehand about what CTCs do. And then down below, I just ask you again, you've got to leverage and capture every opportunity you can from a compo, joint, allied, SOF, conventional, whatever you can do. You got to, anytime you hear that something's going to blow up or drive or fly or shoot or whatever, you got to leverage that to make sure you capitalize on that to reap the benefits of those resources. From munitions, from fuel, from op-tempo, from flying hour programs, from targetry, from whatever the case may be. So I ask you to always find ways to do that. And of course, the key to that is the ASARC, the twice-a-year event down at ForceCom where all things get synchronized. That's a key place to make sure that you are always well plugged into to understand it. Okay, next. Almost done. That just shows you where all the training dollars go. There's 6 pegs in the Army. I'm one of them. And that's what we're paying for this year to make sure, there's all the heel to toe. That's the IBCT conversion going down at Fort Stewart, over at Fort Stewart right now. Again, 19 rotations a year at the CTCs, going to 20. That's a lot. That's a lot. And we're now doing decisive action rotations at the JMRC and Hohenfels. And of course, there's 2 SFAB rotations a year now to get validated to go to Afghanistan. But that gives you a feel for what we're paying for, okay? All right, next. And Georgia on my mind. So why do you think Georgia's on my mind? Is there anything that the Army's doing that you're not touching? And there's a typo there. It does show you guys going in June 19th versus I just caught that this morning. Sorry. I know you are. I was trying to give you more time, but I'm not going to give you more time. All right. So disregard that date. But that's Georgia. That's pretty awesome, isn't it? So good on you. You're integral to everything we are doing. Which goes back to when I first got up here in front of you. That's why Georgia is important to somebody like me. So thank you. And again, feedback, anything you want to talk about there? We were just with the Georgians a week ago. Georgia's very close to me because I'm the guy during the surge in Iraq and when I was the MNCI chief of staff that flew to Tbilisi to get the Georgians to come to Iraq. Because we were short down in the southeast. In between the Brits and the Poles. So the Georgians came, and then we flew back up and said, will you come again? And they came again. And then, of course, the Russians got a vote, and then they had to go home. And then, of course, they worked for me just like that guy did in IJC, and, of course, what they did up in Bagram was phenomenal in terms of the rocket belts and trying to keep the rockets coming out of Bagram. So they're very brave, they're very tough, as you all very know, and Glad they're friends of ours. And thank you again for what you do to make them better. Okay, next. I think that's it. So I just, over there on the right-hand side, if you're interested, we can leave it up, or maybe you remember it, but anything you want to talk about, where we are, there's a bunch of topics. We can talk about anything you want to talk about. So with that said, go ahead to the next one. I think the next one just says questions, discussion, or something like that. No, it doesn't. That slide is gone. So put the other one back up, would you please? Okay, what's on your mind? Georgia's on my mind. What's on your mind?
Yes, sir. I'll be the first to ask a question. There's always got to be a first. So I'm Colonel John Gentry, 648th Maneuver Enhancement Brigade Commander. So I'd be remiss on your Georgia on your mind slide that 648th Maneuver Enhancement Brigade is integrally involved in support with the 48th and going to JRTC. We're also a partner with Third ID in supporting them for the warfighter and so forth. So the question for you, sir, without a MEB in the active component, and all the MEBs are in the National Guard and 3 in the reserve, 16 in the Guard, 3 in the reserves. Just a little bit of concern about the future of the Maneuver Enhancement Brigade. Just your thoughts on the MEB and the role that they play in the war fight, especially now looking at ULO and
Right.
from that standpoint.
No, thanks. Good question. Well, they're integral, which is causing the question. So part of the total TAA is total Army analysis. And part of total Army analysis right now is trying to figure, it's a total review as you watch the Army grow. Is the Army putting the right stuff in the right compo? And then do we have the right capability, which is a subset of capacity? You know, capacity, broad, overarching, throw out the tarp, and you got all this stuff. And then you break that down into capability. Do you have the right capabilities, which would be a MEB, inside that overarching capacity? So right now we're trying to figure out in the realm of fires, logistics, MEBs, BEBs, all that stuff. Did we do this right? Some of you have probably heard me say it before, but the recovery from modularity is painful. You know, what we did when we thought how we had to fight around 2004, 2005, when we started breaking everything up and saying, oh, we'll just take this unit from here and they can go with this unit here and this compo here can go with this compo here. Well, I mean, a lot of times it did work, but the goal is to make that a much more back to it was before habitual, self-sufficient. You know, but the fact that we stripped things like air defense out of brigades, oh my God, you know, ridiculous. So trying to get the 10 mobile SHORAD battalions back, and they're on a glide path all the way out to 2022 to get there. You know, but the fact that last year we had to go, we said, how are we going to Band-Aid this stuff? And we Band-Aided it by going to 80 different warehouses to find all the pieces, parts of Stingers. The launcher, the grip stock, the IFF, batteries that were in all varying states of decay, readiness, and putting those things all back together again, running a course at Fort Sill to pilot it, and then bringing MTT over to Europe to get the 173rd, the 2CR, and the rotational brigade, some kind of organic capability. That's the lunacy that we go through on trying to recover from some of this stuff. So all things considered, not just Georgia, on my mind is how do we take a look at all that, the totality, and figure out what's the right place to put the right thing based on what type of an outfit you are. And again, are you a focused readiness unit or not? So the new anomaly for the Army is based on that peninsula, which remember the old term war trace? That's what focused readiness units are. It's the equivalent of war trace. And making sure that if you are a designated unit, not just to do the CENTCOM stuff, but you're on the tip fid, and you've got some day you're supposed to load, and some day you're supposed to arrive. Do you have the stuff that you're supposed to have based on, again, what type of a formation you are, what echelon are you at, and what day do you show up? And again, things like Objective T will tell us how long it takes based on when we say you're on the docket, how many days is it going to take for you to get ready to go. That's what Objective T is supposed to help us learn. So a lot to look at. It's bigger than you. It's painful, and hopefully over time we'll be able to rectify some of those things that happened to us these past 13 years. Okay, what else? Yes, yep. CPT. All right, how's it going? Okay. Well, the sad part is, as you know, 2 years ago, the former cyber command commander did not want the guard to be on par with the active component. So we pulled out the red flag and said wrong. And then we allocated the school seats, and now we got you guys up and running. But you've got a latency now of about 2 years because of he's a good guy. He just made a bad call because of an admiral. The good news is, just like I say, the entire cyber mission force, not just the CP side, the CS, the CM, all of them. By the way, can you call, who's my control man back there? Would you call up the state, somewhere in the back? You got a little bit of a guide on that last slide that shows you what slide it should be. The cyber mission force is up there, is in there somewhere. You did your homework. You can't be cheating like that. Keep going, it ain't that one. I think it's further back. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Keep going. It's like gunnery, you gotta shoot faster than that. Go ahead, keep going, 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 keep going. Someday it'll show up there. Keep going. No, something's wrong. Well, that's the cyber score. That's not what I want, though. Maybe it's behind that. Keep going. Is there more behind that? No, that's counter UAS. No? Okay. Well, somewhere in there's a cyber slide. But the key is you're an integral part of it. And the key is, again, as you know, every state wants more. And we don't have enough teams right now. As you look at the 41-21 mix, 11 guard, 10 reserve, 41 active, we don't have enough to meet all of our requirements now. So I think it's growth industry. But the challenge for you guys is going to be, I think you know better than I, is going to be retention. And how do we make sure after we go through that rigorous training process, but the beauty, as we say, is the key about you cyber warriors is you're the only people in this country that actually get to use it legally. And I think those authorities will continue to expand as well. So keep up the fight. As you know, and the issue in this is recruiting. It's tough training. It takes the right person. Sometimes you got to rob Peter to pay Paul to get as we looked at the signal community, the MI community, what it's taken to build these teams. But again, those adversaries I talked about up front are pretty good at this stuff. So how do we make sure that that goes back to that gray zone comment I made a while ago. So keep doing what you're doing, Chief, and we're going to need more of it.
When is Objective T?
Objective T will kick off for the Compo 1 this fall, October, November timeframe. And what's going to happen is Objective T is going to roll out in 3 phases. We're going to break, and there's a that's in there somewhere too, but I don't know if you got that guide in there. But basically, we will break it up by METs, we'll break it up by collective training, and we'll break it up by days to train, we'll break it up by individual, crew, platform, collective, live fire proficiency. So instead of trying to have you grade yourselves across all of those at once, we will roll out with the METs, collective training. We will go into the live fire wicket, and then we will go into the days to train to get ready to go. And so what will happen is the active will roll out in the fall on phase 1, the guard will roll out in January. Then January will be the active for phase 2, go into the summer, you guys, phase 2, and then phase quarter 3, and then quarter 4. So that it'll be back to back to back to back. But again, any of you heard me speak at PCC? Just make sure if you are a guide-on holder or about to be a guide-on holder, you understand again how to. Objective T isn't really that. You get lots of versions. Have you all seen the user's guide? All right, so that was designed to help you understand it, and I think version 2 just came out. But you've got to understand how to be able to use that stuff, just like in the old days on the SRU analog. How do you do it with your pen? And there are some algorithms in there. How do you report analog-wise? Then how do you learn whoever your Objective T gurus are going to be as part of DERS, who can get on there and do the software? But you got to understand dance step 1 before you do dance step 2. And you got to understand, we call that mock reporting. I hope that term is not new to you. You need to be mock reporting to understand what you look like, how you currently report, and if you were to use Objective T standards, what would that mean to you? And it will be a big difference. So if the GERF goes from C1 to C3, that's a year ago though. So that's not recent. So how you train, as AT is coming up and everything else, as the summer months come through here, how you look at what you're doing, make sure you're more leaning towards objective. The more you lean towards those standards now, the better off you're going to be. And all the METs, can you see the chart that shows objective T? That's got all the METs, and so keep going. So that's telling you percentages of what you got to do by task. That's the overall master chart. And this is maneuver centric right now, but this applies obviously to everybody. Keep going. I think the METs are coming up behind there. Keep going. Okay, so there's all the METs that have been done. This is a lot of hard work, because what comes behind METs is all those training and evaluation outlines. So all that stuff is being churned like an old steno machine, whatever we should call those things. That's how that stuff is kicking out, okay? So get the handbook if you haven't seen it. Make sure you're playing with it. Make sure you understand it, because the clock, we're not going to be able to stall much longer. So here we are, approach marching fourth quarter of 18 and first quarter of 19 is when the party begins. What else? It's a big world out there, folks.
Let me ask you one, sir. So, Matt Smith from the 48th.
Yeah.
About 5 months ago, I asked you the same question, but Sergeant Major and I...
Maybe the answer is going to change.
Maybe.
Huh?
So two things come up when we're talking to soldiers. Hey, are we really going to deploy? I think I'm tracking on the answer to that one. And is the partnership going to continue? So any evolution in that over the last 5 months? I
don't think anything. I hope you're seeing the partnership is only getting stronger. Anybody not think that? Anybody associated with the associated unit program think that it's not a good thing? Anybody think it should grow? These are questions. Typically when you're in school and a teacher asks you a question, you answer him or her, right? So we're happy with that? Is what you're seeing, am I up here blowing smoke up your fourth point of contact? Is what I'm talking about what you're seeing? Resource-wise? Training-wise, integration-wise, fielding-wise, employment-wise? Anybody gonna tell me I'm full of shit? Huh? More money? That's what you guys exist for. I just heard him say. You got plenty of money. Money is not the problem. If you think it is, then somebody's not managing your money properly. Money is not the problem. Not with readiness. Modernization, installations, RDT&E, S&T, yes. So again, if you're not tracking the Army's modernization priorities, that is for all compos. That's the big 6 plus 2. That's the Army's focus. So the Army finally has a clear picture about what's important to it, and that's consistent. And if you're not tracking what these cross-functional teams are, long-range fires, AMD, future vertical lift, next generation combat vehicle, the network, close combat lethality, assured PNT, the synthetic training environment, you tracking all those? That's the Army's focus for modernization. So we finally have a focus, and we finally have a strategy, because you can't keep fly swatting in 1 month saying this is important to you, and the next month this is important to you. And over the course of the last 2 weeks, the Secretary-in-Chief just went over all 780 programs, every single one of them. About 30 hours. And went through and graded them and scored them and said, why are we investing in this? Why are we investing in this? Move this to here. Why is this separate from that? Why are we still doing that? A pretty healthy, wholesome review about where our money is going. So we'll stay focused on that. And the key, again, is, and back to the things, how you report, how you can, so back to that all things Georgia on my mind. The key is the feedback. So everything from cyber to associated units. Nobody's asking about SFABs. All those things are important. Obviously going to CTCs and everything you're doing from a combat-related perspective, but all that stuff you're doing up there, which is the state that owns the Cyber Center of Excellence. I guess a couple more hours that way, right? Yeah. So that's all important. So stay connected, provide that feedback, but I think my answer would not change. My comment to you would be I only even feel more better than I did in January, which is, so we're about exactly 6 months ago from that. That was January 5th, and today's June 2nd. So here we are. Okay. I'm sorry, that light's shining, my head's blind, my baldness is blinding myself here.
Hey, sir, Tony Poole, G3 for the Army National Guard. Thank you for being here. Two quick questions for you. You hit on it again. So going back to objective B, your thoughts when you talked about the Army and the Guard having problems with formation, probably being 85 to 80% jump. Is the Army going to be willing to put that in ARQ in regards to measurement and assessment? Your accounts are already depleted by 50%. Or you might as because your level leaders aren't present for training. What do you think the Army's appetite is?
It's not, and that's the issue. So as we've told the Guard and the reserves, you might want to look at a RIA account. So again, these are, again, I just said we're all the same Army. So if a RIA account fixes the Compo 1, why wouldn't a RIA account / TTHS account fix Compos 2 and Compo 3? Because the appetite for that, just as we did the career review with the chief, I'm losing track of days, Wednesday, when we brief Guard units that are telling us they're not going to be manned until summer of 19, June, there were two of them. One was engineer, one was sustainment. Aren't going to be manned until June 19 because of MOSQ, non-availables, school pipelines, all that kind of stuff. The chief says, then why is that unit on this damn chart? And so the challenge for 2 and 3 is always going to be, as both Cadavi and Lucky have figured out how to work from the Force Gen X to the 2020 Force, and how do you make sure, because your challenge is obviously unlike us. I can't tell one of you guys to pick up and pack up your stuff and move to Mississippi, or move to Texas, or move to New York, or move to wherever. So what units, based on your ability to man them, are getting tagged? And of course, the issue always becomes, based on your assigned strength, what flexibility you have to stay FRU for a longer time, because you can actually rotate people over the course of so the flag stays the same, the patch stays the same, but you rotate once, Smith for Anderson, Jones for Johnson, because you can do that. And that's how you have to look at things. And again, you're a healthy state compared to many of your others, so what makes Georgia different than Texas, different than someplace else when you're pegging outfits to be earmarked for that? But we've got to find, again, innovative, creative. These aren't necessarily that innovative anymore. I mean, we've already figured it out. So if we can afford to give you that end strength and put that wedge in there to make sure you're protected, that's what we got to do. Because we will not. If you continue to stay on the chart and say you can't go because of X, Y, or Z, you're going to get deleted. And then once you're not an FRU unit or a gift map unit, guess what happens to your resources? Now, if you are a 180 out or later deployer, the investment in you just went out the window. Because now we'll say we'll get you to Shelby, Atterbury, we'll get you to Bliss, Hood, wherever we bring you, and when you get there, we're going to put you back together again. But we got time. So you don't really want to be that outfit right now in terms of, then back to your resource question or comment, then you would be an under-resourced outfit because you are lower in the totem pole, so to speak. So G3, fix it. A good G3 would have that all covered by now. I'm sure they all love you, except when the taskings come, right?
As long as you pass the resolution, I'm good to go.
Yeah, well, don't bring that up. Yeah.
Second question for you, sir. I'm just curious. Talk about the SFAB and regular BTT, the model. Kind of want to get your thoughts or philosophy about the future of the SFABs going forward. I mean, by design, employ it in a non-enforcement environment without design. Do you see that kind of the trend?
We do. Ideally, we're going to grow more. Because again, anything that allows us to take burden off of brigade, everybody wants one now, already, by the way. So, first SFAB has been gone since February. They love them in theater. Did they have all the enablers they needed when they got there? No. Did we kind of know that? Yeah. The challenges were classic things that you've all experienced. It was CI vetting. If you're going to tell this team, this 12-man team to go out to a NGAG, are you going to put them out there before you vet those Afghans? That's a question. No. What about if you don't have a TERP? Who's doing the AT, force protection assessment, to make sure when you go on the FOB, whatever, you're not vulnerable to get blown apart? So all those things that we kind of suspected were going to be issues, and now because of all the things that they're doing differently, they want like pathfinders, because they're doing more flyby assist than they're doing more drive-by assist, because the force protection capabilities are weaker, so it's easier to fly in, drop in, spend a couple days, and leave without driving it. So most things over there are by air, and then you're back to golden hour, ISR, sustainment, and so they go out for about 48 to 96 hours. As you all know, the problem with drive-by, fly-by advising, drive-by, fly-by advising is not the same thing as being side by side with your partner for 9 months, right? Anybody disagree with that? So we're learning a lot, but at the end of the day, everybody wants more. Africa wants it. It's potential we could put one on the Korean Peninsula. But the problem with building these things is they take time. So the first one was very hard because we put the first one at Benning down the road. And the problem is Benning's a trade outpost. And it was hard to get recruits and people to volunteer to go to Benning because it's not a big FORSCOM installation. It's got Rangers, obviously, but it doesn't have a group, it doesn't have a division and all that kind of stuff. So recruiting for that outfit was tough. So if you're not tracking first SFAB is 90% volunteers, the chief's guidance is everybody in an SFAB is a volunteer. Because if you go to an SFAB, what does that mean to you? You're going to deploy. No ands, ifs, or buts about it. If you put your hand up to go, you're going. So 90% volunteer, 10% voluntold. 64 soldiers from 1st Brigade, 10th Mountain got plucked. And then 128 down there, the old remnant of the Sledgehammer Brigade of 3 ended up helping out with the Sec 4 requirement. So the SFAB is 816 packs, 36 12-man teams, and a 300-person security force. So a squad goes out essentially with every 12-person team. But the problem is, besides just that physical security, are the requirements of all the other enablers I just gave to you. Close air support, air-ground integration, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the goal will be to grow more. So far, so good. Very positive feedback. And the second SFAB, if you're not tracking, is standing up at Fort Bragg as we speak today. And the recruiting at Fort Bragg, by the way, you got the 18th Airborne Brigade there. You got the 82nd Airborne Division. You got Special Forces. You got all kind of stuff going on down there. And the Carolina Guard, who are also pretty damn good. So that's going very well. And if you're not tracking, the next 3 just got announced. Number 3 goes to Fort Hood. Number 4 goes to Fort Carson. Number 5 goes to JBLM. And of course, the 54th is spread between 6 states. It was supposed to be 5, now it's 6 states, as you know. So I think we'll see more. And again, so from a twofold, as I said to you a while ago, from a twofold perspective, from a train, advise, assist, accompany, enable perspective, an SFAB is super, 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 super powerful. And then again, from a force generation. So remember, an SFAB is an infantry. Right now, they're all infantry. They may go armor, we'll see. But right now, because of Afghanistan, that doesn't make much sense. An IBCT cadre, captain and above, no lieutenants, E5 and above, no E4s and below. That's your structure. And so that's designed to have all those squad leaders, team leaders standing there, and then when you say fall in, here they come. And that becomes the base formation with obviously commanders and staff. And oh, by the way, retention in the SFAB is off the charts. Promotion rates in the SFAB are off the charts. It's spectacular. So stay tuned. It's only on month number 3. So they're about a third of the way there, and they got 6 months to go. But everywhere I go, it's positive feedback. For anybody in here know somebody on the first SFAB? Anybody have a friend or anybody in there? No? So very, very, very positive feedback so far. So we hope for more. We've got the Security Force Assistance Command. It'll be a 2-star guy, like a division commander. It's an 80-person TDA right now under FORCECOM at Bragg, which will be the guy that will be the commander of all these things with the goal of that day. Will there be an SFAB division and core structure down the road? Potentially. What else?
Sir, I think that's going to bring us to a close for this session.
Okay.
We appreciate you, General Gerard.
Sir, on behalf of the entire association, I'll give you the yearly coin, but thank you very much for coming
Joe.
and sharing.
No, thanks.
Thanks for what you do for our Army, and glad you came to speak to the best National Guard in the nation right now.
Cool.
Hi, Reggie. How you been? Good to see you. Thanks for having me. Good to see you.